Sharon, Mission Australia's Youth Survey 2024 report was released at the end of last year. Can you tell us about its findings?
They're a little different than previous years is that the cost of living, it's the first time that young people have ever mentioned that that is the top issue facing Australia.
On those four issues, is there anything that you can express to us as maybe some helpful guides?
CEO of Mission Australia.
We are privileged to have Sharon Callister, CEO of Mission Australia, to help us unpack these findings.
And clearly, even for 15 to 19-year-olds, they're either aware of it or very, very sadly, they're actually experiencing it themselves.
And I believe the fourth one was around mental health.
It's correct. When you're 15 to 19-year-old, you are a very vulnerable person. What we have found.
The Mission Australia Youth Survey continues to provide an essential platform for young people in Australia. It empowers them to share their thoughts, aspirations and concerns on a wide range of issues. The 2024 survey, which gathered insights from 15 to 19-year-olds across Australia, offers a detailed look into the evolving opportunities and challenges facing young people today. We are privileged to have Sharon Callister, CEO of Mission Australia, to help us unpack these findings and to also explore Mission Australia's response to the Productivity Commission's report on government services on housing and homelessness. I'm your host, Ian Bunston. Welcome to Monday Matters. Welcome, Sharon. It's just wonderful to have you back again.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be back here with you. I can't believe it's actually been 2 years since I was with you, but I guess time flies when you're doing important things and you're always very busy at it. So yeah, as I said, delighted to be here.
No, it's great to have you back. Sharon, Mission Australia's Youth Survey 2024 report was released at the end of last year. Can you tell us about its findings?
I'd love to tell you about the findings. They're actually quite different in some ways than previous findings. And if I were to go to the top three items that the young people rated as the most important issues facing Australia at the moment, number one was the cost of living. Number two was climate and the environment. And number three was violence, crime and safety. So why I said that they're a little different than previous years is that the cost of living, it's the first time that young people have ever mentioned that that is the top issue facing Australia. And, you know, I don't think you can turn anywhere without hearing about the cost of living crisis, the housing emergency, housing insecurity, poverty levels. And clearly, even for 15 to 19-year-olds, they're either aware of it or very, very sadly, they're actually experiencing it themselves. So that was the key takeaway from the survey that we've never seen before. And it was 56 of respondents that actually mentioned that as number one. What we tend to see and have seen for the past few years is that climate and the environment, that is always right up there. That is always front and centre for young people's mind, the impact that we're having on the world and the kind of world we're leaving for younger people as we get older. So that was not a surprise. But I think the takeaway from that is it's very difficult to just focus solely on climate change when you are having issues with can my family afford to eat? Am I by myself? Am I homeless by myself? Can we afford the rent? Are we at risk of being kicked out of where we live? So those things on a day-to-day basis will take priority. And then the issue with regards to violence and safety and crime, there has been a lot in the media over the past year and a half, 2 years. It has been growing, in particular Queensland and Northern Territory with youth crime, but it doesn't just stop there. Are other issues with crime that are also being reported. So I guess that's a really high-level summary of the top three items that young people saw as important in the 2024 Youth Survey.
And I believe the fourth one was around mental health.
It's correct. And mental health is often fairly high up and bubbling close to the surface. And that's that's, I guess, very challenging to see that year on year, because the issues that we are doing in terms of a nation trying to improve and resolve these things aren't quite hitting the mark still. But it's also recognising that when you're 15 to 19-year-old, you are a very vulnerable person. You're moving from childhood into adolescence to young adulthood. And that's a particularly key part of time in young person's development. And then you overlay that with potentially school stress or other issues that we've just spoken about. And it's not surprising that it does say fairly high in the list of issues that young people see as important.
Mm. Sharon, I'm just thinking there'd be lots of grandparents and parents that'll be listening to this program today on those 4 issues. Is there anything that you can express to us as maybe some helpful guides, as conversations we can have with, it could be with their grandchildren, with children themselves going forward?
I think it's a really good point. And what we have found when young people, for instance, if they're talking to us about the personal issues that are affecting themselves, and so some things, just because they see that it's important for Australia, they may not have experienced it themselves. One of the key things is having good relationships with family, ensuring that the barriers are down, that there's openness there, giving young people confidence that they're loved and that they're wanted. And that it's really important that older people who are looking after them, in this case, we're talking about grandparents, really give the young people confidence to be able to speak their minds, because the relationships are actually considered very important by young people in terms of helping them through difficult issues.
I want to move to the housing and homelessness issue. And as I mentioned in the introduction, the Productivity Commission's report on government services and focusing around the housing and homelessness issue, which came out in late January. What was Mission Australia's response to that? And have you got any expectations for the March federal budget?
Our response to that review on government services, that Productivity Commission report, is that it was absolutely spot on. The findings that they had in that report, in particular with people on low incomes, and Mission Australia, we do a lot of work with people who are on low incomes, whether that's very low earning jobs or people on income support. It talked about 2 in 5 of them being in rental stress and at risk of losing their homes and their tenancies. So the report completely resonates with us. It talks really very clearly about some of the things that are needed. And talks about the fact that there are so many people, hundreds of thousands of people on wait lists for homes. It talks about the need to increase rental assistance, income support, all of those priorities that it's nominating. Absolutely, Mission Australia, certainly we see it firsthand on the ground from people that we're helping to care for, but we completely agree with those recommendations.
Now, I noted this morning on the ABC News that the New South Wales government has got a plan to build 500 social and affordable homes.
The attempt to build more homes that are affordable is absolutely welcomed. I think that there would be nobody anywhere that would suggest that that wasn't a good thing. I suppose what I would encourage more of is that we focus on this, not just on particular sites or blocks of lands that have availability, but that there is a strategic and long-term approach by governments, led by government, but not completely. It's not just reliant on government, but they do need to take a leadership role in looking at the housing and homelessness situation right across the country and ensuring that we meet the demands, what we know is required. And, it's very clear, it's a statistic that it's out there, that we need 1 million new social and affordable homes over the next 2 decades. That's 1 million if we are going to be able to curb the demand, the increasing demand around homelessness. That's a staggering number. I'm sure you'd all agree, everybody listening here. What the good news on that is that the government are showing a leadership role, certainly from the Commonwealth and various state governments. And they are introducing funds now, a Housing Australia Future Fund, Housing Accord, Queensland Housing Investment Funds, similar ones in New South Wales and around the country. And they are all recognising their role in providing more housing. So what they do is they put these projects together, and organisations, community housing providers, like organisations like Mission Australia, if we are fortunate enough to be selected, then we proceed to build housing. But the amount of housing on offer and the money on offer is not nearly sufficient to actually curb that demand. The investment needs to be much more.
Now, Sharon, am I correct in saying that Mission Australia, you manage, I think, in the vicinity of like 4,500 social and affordable homes?
Is correct. And we're very excited and pleased to be able to do that. Our view is that you can't end homelessness without building new homes and new supply. So wherever we get an opportunity, we are also trying to build on that. We've got more in the pipeline at the moment that we're currently negotiating. We're not able to make that those announcements just yet, but they won't be too far away. I'm excited to say that last year we did open new social and affordable housing in Sydney, a suburb called Macquarie Park, which was very exciting. It was 256 social homes and 130 affordable homes. Last year we also, up in Townsville in Queensland, we opened what is termed a youth foyer, which is home now for 40 young people who were homeless or at risk of homelessness. That's a really exciting model that is specifically tailored around young people, because not only does it provide people with independence to live there, but it's also a supported learning model. So it is able to help young people get skills, get training, and some of it is actually just life skills as well that they wouldn't normally get if they had been, if you put yourself in a position where you've been homeless, you don't actually get to have the experience of the lessons that mum and dad will give you about how to learn, how to save, how to do this right, how to prepare for a job interview. If you have none of those supports around you, that is the absolute beauty and genius of the youth housing or the youth foyer model. And so we're excited to think that there will be more of those developed across the country in coming years as well. And we're certainly putting our hands up to be part of that.
That's very exciting, and we'll certainly be waiting to see what unfolds. Now, Mission Australia, we've covered the youth survey, which is a remarkable piece of information and data, and I know that federal governments and our federal government and our state governments, they refer to that. And we've looked at a little bit with regard to social and affordable housing. What other areas can we celebrate when it comes to Mission Australia? Tell us about it.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess what I'd probably say most of all, our organisation has been around for close to 165 years in some form or another. And we are a national organisation with a big national footprint. So what that means is that we are providing enormous range of support services right around the country for people in need. Now, I do balance that with, wouldn't it be great if we weren't needed at all? But since we're here talking about the celebration points, I'd probably put them into three different categories. One is the growth in our services, in particular community housing, which is what we have just touched on. And I can't tell you how beautiful it is to see a person that has been homeless and they are now placed into their new home. And then the opening that I referred to just a little bit before about this project where we opened social and affordable homes in Macquarie Park in Sydney, I remember speaking to one woman. She was over 55. That's one of the largest growing groups of homeless people in Australia, women over 55. And I spoke to her about her home and what it meant to her. And she was in tears. In fact, I was in tears. I never, ever, ever thought this would happen to me again. And it completely changes lives. So I love to be able to celebrate any of those new openings and growth where we provide more opportunities. But I think we can also celebrate the breadth of the services that we do offer. And so it's not just a geographical thing, but anyone who's homeless or at risk of being homeless, we're there to support. So whether that's people trying to recover from addiction, women and families escaping domestic violence, people with disabilities, just to name a few, it's a really important point to make that I do talk to our frontline staff regularly, and the feedback that they give me about how we change people's lives is absolutely phenomenal as well. It's very heartwarming. It's certainly one of the reasons that I do my job working in this sector. I definitely have a reason to get out of bed every morning, even if I've had a sleepless night, which is what I had last night. But maybe that was the excitement of today as well. And I guess the third point that I would celebrate is the research that we do and the advocacy that we are then able to do to government. So if we feel that there's a systems change that's required, or we feel that if we provide government with more evidence on certain things, that they will listen to us. And a great example of that is our homelessness impact report. And that was a report done over a 3-year period, and it looked at people who had come and used Mission Australia services. 50% of them came to us when they were at risk of being homeless, and 50% came to us when they were already homeless. And what was just absolutely outstanding and phenomenal from those results is that we found that in 94% of occasions, which is virtually everybody that came to us when they were at risk of homelessness, we were able to save whether it was their home, their tenancy, and they were able to remain living. And sometimes they just need a little bit of help. So that's a really important point to celebrate, because we shared that with government. Now we have an opportunity to constantly lobby government, and we talk about the election coming up, and I've talked about already some of the areas where we want to see government policy changed and improved, but we're looking for a $500 million prevention and transformation fund so that we can actually stop people becoming homeless rather than having to build all these homes, but cope with the demand of when people are already homeless and they're already in that crisis cycle. So I think there are a few things to really celebrate along the lines of that report as well. We also saw a 26% demand for our services over that 3-year period, which goes to show you that even though we quote the official figures, that there are 122,000 people homeless every night in Australia, that's based on the 2021 census, which is now 4 years old. With the demand that we're seeing increasing, I'm pretty sure, sadly, that when we have our next census, that number will have increased significantly still. So there's a mix of celebration and obviously points of concern where we are still trying to bring about more positive change.
Sharon, there's so many things to celebrate. Mission Australia is a remarkable organisation. You must be mighty proud to lead this organisation.
Oh, I am beyond proud, but I feel very privileged. And I just think it's just such an amazing opportunity. But what keeps me really grounded is when I spoke earlier about talking to our staff, our frontline. I do go out with our board, and I'm really excited to do these visits twice a year with our board, and they're a volunteer board. They make it their priority to go out and visit our services, speak to our clients, people that we are helping, so that they know on the ground that what we say we're doing is actually what we are doing. We really want to improve people's lives. We want to transform their living situations. So yes, I'm very proud of it, but it's really important work. I feel blessed that I've been given the opportunity, but each and every person who either works for Mission Australia or is even a volunteer board member, they've all got that same focus, and we all feel pretty much the same.
Well, Sharon Callister, CEO of Mission Australia, it's been an absolute privilege to have you as our guest today at Monday Matters. We wish you well for 2025, and we look forward to further celebrations as the year unfolds for your organisation.
Thank you.